afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are halfway through day 2 here on the M42's main stage at the inaugural Abu Dhabi Global Healthcare Week. I'm sure you'll all join me in agreeing we've had a fantastic start to this exhibition. Some amazing panel discussions, special presentations, insightful and inspiring talks. And we are continuing. With this bar set very high, I'm going to ask to return to stage the gentleman I'm calling my co-host, because he's done 3 sessions in a row. Dr. Mars Sheikh, give him a big round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. You've been a great audience.
Fantastic. So for those of you who don't know Dr. Mars, he's a medical doctor by background, a technology passionate enthusiast who joined G42 and now is with the M42 family. And you are the VP of Product Management. And now you will be the moderator for this session. This particular session is, if you tell our audience.
So this session, we're going to talk about enhancing patient care using pharmacogenomics. That's a big word, and we've got a really astute audience now helping us understand what it all means.
Fantastic. So some big speakers to delve into this big subject area. So let's introduce them. Dr. Val Zverov is M42's medical director. Please join us on stage. Dr. Sebi John, the staff physician in the Neurological Institute at Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi. And a wonderful lady I had a chance to meet just now, Wada Mohammed, who's a genome team for the Department of Health at Abu Dhabi. Please give them a big round of applause. Dr. Mars, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Preet. So we've got on stage 3 really different medical and healthcare professionals. We've got Dr. Val, who is a medical director of our biogenics lab. We've got Dr. Sebi, who is a clinician. And we've got Wada. She comes from the regulator. And this audience, this provides us a great platform to discuss a topic from 3 different perspectives. A topic called pharmacogenomics, which we'll start with Dr. Val. Dr. Val, could you help us understand what is pharmacogenomics and how is it changing the way we treat patients?
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? I think I start with an excursion to the history a little bit. The first association with pharmacogenetics dates back to 510 BC, when Pythagoras noted that certain people who ate fava beans, and it got lethal for them. Later we discovered that it's connected to G6PD deficiency. Then the term pharmacogenetics was introduced by Frederick Wohel, who wanted to actually underline the connections between the drug interactions and the genes. Then Human Genome Project, which reported in 2003, confirmed these interactions that genome has impact on our physiological processes, and this process is also related to pharmaceuticals. Then, although we are talking about pharmacogenetics and pharmacogenomics, still a lot of physicians at this time, they use typical height and weight for drug prescription. So if we talk about pharmacogenomics now the research mainly focus around the SNPs, variability of single nucleotide polymorphisms and their impact on the drug interactions. And basically, the way we detect and classify what type of metabolizers we use SNPs. SNPs, we call them star alleles. Star alleles form the haplotype, and then the haplotype form the diplotype. And on the basis of this combination of haplotypes, we can assign the score, and we can identify what type of metabolizers we all are. And if we look at the type of metabolizers, we have majority of people, 40% are normal metabolizers. Normal metabolizers, it means the drug dosage does not have to be adjusted. Then there are two extreme, rare metabolizers and ultra-rapid metabolizers. So in case of rare metabolizers and ultra-rapid metabolizers, as I stated, the dose definitely has to be adjusted, because if you rare metabolizers, the drug will remain in your blood longer. If it's ultra-rapid, it will be metabolized really quickly. Then we also have intermediate metabolizer and rapid metabolizers. Good examples of that we have, for instance, warfarin. Warfarin is an FDA-approved drug which has recommendations because warfarin is a blood clot preventive agent, and the dosage of warfarin depends on the genotype, two genes, 2C9, CYP2C9 and VRCOC-C1. And basically, if we give low dosage of warfarin, then highly likely formation of clotting. If we give high dosage of warfarin, then we can have a bleeding. In both cases, we can have development of the stroke. So this is very important. So since we were mentioning what is pharmacogenetics, what's pharmacogenomics? Basically, the term pharmacogenetics was related more to the initial stages of the science, when we had family studies, when we had use of targeted platform for identification of SNPs. Now we move to era of pharmacogenomics, when we are more about population studies, high throughput sequencing, GWAS studies, and in the future, we're actually going to move to era of pharmacomics, where we'll be using the metabolome, transcriptome, epigenome, and everything that will be supported by artificial intelligence, and obviously can lead us to the use of this science to support precision medicine, because it's extremely important to tailor the treatment of the patients to the genome of the patients. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Val. That was really educational. Moving from Dr. Val to Dr. John. Dr. John, can you help us understand how the availability of pharmacogenomics will help you improve or change your prescribing patterns in order to make them more efficient and safe?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. I hope to give you a clinical perspective. So I'm a stroke physician. I do vascular neurology and interventional surgery. And unfortunately, stroke is a huge, huge burden. They're about 5.5, second leading cause of death, 5.5 million deaths a year, and the leading cause of disability. And of course, 90% of causative risk factors are modifiable. This includes hypertension, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, obesity, obstructive sleep apnea. So for patients with stroke or, say, coronary artery disease, there are a set of medications that are very commonly used. This includes blood thinners, which antiplatelets, anticoagulants. One mentioned was warfarin. Of course, antihypertensives, your diabetes medications, and cholesterol medications. So clopidogrel is one such medication which we very, very commonly use in stroke. It's an antiplatelet, and it reduces the chance of forming clots. So we did a retrospective study in Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi, where I wanted to see how many patients who take clopidogrel, the drug is actually working. And we looked at about 250 plus patients, and in all comers, the drug was not working in 25% of patients. There's a particular test that we use to see if it's working. All comers, 25%, it was not working. And the UAE population allows for different subsets. So we have, a large percentage for the Indian subcontinent. We have Asians, including Filipinos. When we look at specific subsets, we found that patients from Arab countries, this is a loose definition, but basically GCC, MENA, up to 40% of patients were clopidogrel resistant, meaning you're giving them these medications and it's just not working. So why is this the case? Of course, it is well known that there's a large interpatient variability when giving medications like clopidogrel, and it has to do with what Dr. Val explained, pharmacogenomics. Clopidogrel needs to be converted into its active form, and there is this, the CYP2C19 the genetic pathways which convert this. So what is available in literature? So this was our experience. Actually, there have been randomized controlled trials which have been shown that the same applies. So if you look at a randomized controlled trial called CHANCE, which was performed in China, they actually also proved that giving aspirin and clopidogrel in patients who had loss of function of this gene, meaning it was not working, there was a higher rate of stroke recurrence. So those who got clopidogrel in which it was not working, of course, the stroke rate was higher. The same study which was done in the States, it was another trial called POINT, this same difference did not apply. So again, it attests to the importance of the ethnic composition of your population and how pharmacogenomics applies. So basically what we're saying is that if we are treating blind, so if you look at our study, if we're treating blind in 40% of the patients, this has implications in that they're going to have a higher rate of stroke. So it is incumbent on us to check if the drug is working in particular subtypes. So if you look at safety, we've already spoken about warfarin. So if you look at US data, the healthcare costs associated with adverse drug reactions is $4 billion a year. And up to 20 to 30% of these mistakes are actually predictable and preventable, right? So warfarin is one. Warfarin is a blood thinner. If you give too much, the patients can bleed. Another important one is statins. Statins is given for reducing your cholesterol and reducing cardiovascular risk. But one complication is that they can get muscle aches and pains called myopathy. Getting pharmacogenomic directed care will actually allow us to modify treatments specific for each patient so that one, of course, it's more effective, that their outcomes are better, and two, of course, is reducing adverse effects. So both in terms of effectiveness and reducing adverse effects, pharmacogenomics definitely helps in the stroke field as it applies to every other field.
Thank you, Dr. John. That was a very enlightening response with the evidence that you've suggested on how being able to predict and prevent a complication and effectiveness of care, and that would help us make it more effective, make care safer, and more, improve outcomes for the population. On that note, I'd move to Wada. Now, we are actually blessed to be working with one of the most innovative and supportive regulators like yourself, right? So we'd really love to understand with these evidence, what are DOH's plans and implications of integrating pharmacogenomics in regular routine care?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me and thank you for the question. So the Department of Health Abu Dhabi is working on implementing policies that focus on fostering collaboration between stakeholders to ensure the smooth integration, developing clinical guidelines, and promoting research, as well as developing clinical guidelines. So those clinical guidelines are highlighting the very important pharmacogene, different testing platforms, as well as highlighting some important resources for the physician to feel more confident and comfortable to use it while interpreting the pharmacogenomic reports. Also, we are working on different reimbursement strategies to make the pharmacogenomic report and test more accessible and affordable for patients. In terms of upskilling the healthcare professionals, we initiated a communication with pharmacy schools within Abu Dhabi just to include or advance the pharmacogenomic content in the pharmacy curriculum, as well as we are targeting clinical pharmacists and aiming to upskill physicians and other healthcare professionals so they will be able to use the pharmacogenomic and integrated it. Moreover, I want to add as well and take the opportunity to highlight some of our achievement. So we started working with the Abu Dhabi Stem Cell Centers on a proof of concept and with M42 as well. And we enrolled 51 participants. From those 51 participants, it was identified that 50% of those participants have a gene-drug interaction. Other than this, they all received an intervention that personalized according to their needs. So this is all from my side.
Thank you so much, Radha. Moving on from that, since we've got such an interesting combination of healthcare professionals on this panel, I couldn't take myself away from putting Dr. John on the spot to ask a question saying, what are the challenges that you see in implementing pharmacogenomic testing in clinical practice, and how can professionals like on the lab side, on the regulation, help you do that better. And help you and your colleagues in terms of the non-specialists as well, bring it part of routine care.
I didn't know the first pharmacogenomics was in 500 BC, and we are still talking about it. So, in the words of Elvis Presley, a little less conversation, a little more action. We need to get this done. We keep talking about this, but we need to get it done. I think part of the problem was there was no standardization of testing and reporting, and this did create, a lot of confusion with clinicians. Clinicians are busy people. They want something which is easy, something which is reasonable, readable, something which is actionable. So having something which is standardized both in terms of testing and reporting makes it a lot more easier for interoperability. It makes it a lot more easier for portability and reproduction of these results. I think the next phase, of course, we spoke about upskilling, but I think a report like from M42 where you make things very easy. You look at all the drugs that a particular patient has a pharmacogenomic interaction with, making actionable items. That makes it a lot more easier for the physician to adopt these changes. And the third thing is we need to incorporate this into the electronic medical record. We can't have a physician in a busy practice seeing his clinic patients and then looking up or opening up other pages to see what the report is and then coming back and prescribing changes. So hopefully the future is where AI, there's a report which is generated and AI is already helping the physician out by saying, these are the potential medications that you could prescribe for this patient. But more than that, please don't prescribe this medication because this fellow has a pharmacogenomic interaction. So don't prescribe this particular statin or don't prescribe this clopidogrel. Instead, consider this alternate medication. I think this interaction with EMR will make it a lot more easier for physician adoption, for physicians to trust. Of course, it goes without saying that each specialty needs more, directed randomized controlled trials, like for instance in stroke, we still need to prove this on a large scale. But I think settings like UAE is very fertile ground because we have such different ethnic populations to see whether these pharmacogenomic directed interventions have a large scale impact. Because the truth is, majority of the population have at least one pharmacogenomic identifiable variant, and 99% of them may be a high-risk one. So again, it is imperative on us to develop these reports and make it mass available so that physicians can make better informed decisions.
Thank you, Dr. John. Just summarizing those points.
Doctor, if I may add. So until this integration is taking place and the interaction with the electronic medical records, our freely and accessible guideline that will be published soon in our DOH website is highlighting the important resources and highlighting as well the importance of checking the drug-drug interaction and drug-gene interaction before implementing those interventions.
Essentially, like in every electronic medical record, we have an allergy list, which you cannot proceed with without making sure we've clicked it. I hope pharmacogenomic will be one such discrete field where the physician will have to look at it and therefore will make better informed decisions.
Lovely. Thank you, Dr. John. Thank you, Vada. I think just summarizing the points, the key takeaways were standardization of the report, upskilling of providers and clinicians, and integration into the EMR system that allows preemptive action, preemptive knowledge, and decision at the point of prescription. Those are our key takeaways. Any follow-up points, Dr. Val?
No, I just want to relate to what been said. And currently, there are 450 registered drug-gene interactions, and out of this 450, 83 gene-drug interaction involve 22 genes and 63 drugs. And these 63 drugs, they really high confidence drug, and they have guidelines and which is really give certainty that those drugs can be used, actively used for pharmacogenomic, for prescription, because 63 drugs, just a little bit if you compare all approved drugs, but they are the most prescribed drugs, 63 drugs, and that's what we actually report with a high confidence level.
Dr. John, Wada, any closing comments?
Yeah, I hope this is not the distant future, and with the help of the Department of Health and folks at M42, that we can make this a reality in UAE for the best outcomes of our patient.
I hope to have like a pharmacogenomic test and reporting for the pediatric population, so we'll cover the whole population.
Very excited about this. Thank you. Thank you, panelists, for taking time from your great audience. Thank you, the audience. You've been a great audience. Thank you.